Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by 15-year-old author Asher Robinson. Asher is straight from San Diego, California. He started out writing at the age of 7, started writing a bunch of horror stories. So we're going to be talking to him about everything that he's up to and how he got into writing at such a young age and everything that he's going to be up to, where he sees his writing career going. So Asher, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Asher Robinson, but I go on my books. I use the pen name Asher Warren. I started writing at the age of 7. I don't really have a reason. I just kind of liked creating short stories. And then I started writing longer and longer stories. And eventually I wrote a novel, which the file was deleted. And then I took a little bit of time off and I wrote another one, which was recently published. And then I'm just wrote another one recently. And then I'm currently working on 2 more right now. I am 15 years old and I am a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, that's great. So your genres are just horror, or do you have any other genres that
So
you get into?
I have other genres. It's really weird because my first published novel is actually a huge step outside of my comfort zone because my first one, it's a short, see it over here, it's a short novel. It's only like under 50 pages and it's a slasher, which isn't what I typically write. I typically like to go into dramatic thrillers with like some elements of horror. So like my next couple books are going to be those, and they're usually a lot longer because it's a lot more to talk about. So those are typically the genres I write. So just like drama and then thriller.
Well, I know in your bio, you talk about anti-bullying and you definitely represent anti-bullying, but tell us about how it can be real stressful and the things that you deal with as a teen author.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Bullying is a huge deal, especially when you're an author. I dealt with a lot of this last year because kids, when they're like my age, they just kind of do whatever they want and they don't really understand why people like to write or like to start stuff so early. So they'll make fun of you for it. So like back when I was probably 12 years old, I wrote some like Minecraft book for my little cousin because he was his birthday coming up and it had to be published in order to get a copy. And people at my school found that book and for like 6 months I was just being teased for that. And that's super stressful because for especially for some teen authors, like some of my friends, when people are harassing them or stressing them out for what they write, they don't want to continue writing because they're scared of what people think of them, and you just have to not really care. I know that's kind of cliche advice, but that's kind of what you have to do is just ignore them and then keep on doing what you're doing because typically it will go in your favor.
Okay, well, for those aspiring authors out there, tell them about talk about from your perspective, the writing and publishing process. Tell them how long you think it might take to write a book and to get it published.
So for any authors out there, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter if you're my age, younger, or in your 70s. It doesn't matter, you can write at any age. So when it comes to writing a book, it differs for every person. Maniacal, my first published novel, took 6 months because I was inconsistent. But then my most recent book only took 2 months and it's more than twice as long. So it depends on how focused you are and how much you actually really want to get into the writing. And it can also depend on what you want to write about. Like, let's say you just want to write a thriller, that can be really quick. But if you want to write something like high fantasy, it can take you months and sometimes even over a year to write the book. And then for the publishing process, it also varies depending on what you want to do. Like, if you want to find a small publishing business, that I don't know the process of that exactly because I self-publish. I use Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing because it's just super simple and easy to use. Like it took me probably 5 minutes to publish my book. So that's what I would suggest if you're starting is KDP because it's just super fast, it's free, and it's just a good way to get out there. But for writing and publishing, it varies depending on the person and what they're writing about and what kind of publishing service they want.
So talk about some of your influences. Like who do you like to read? Who gives you that motivation? What book or author do you kind of follow and check into whenever you need that motivation or that influence to get your own stuff written?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. I don't really read much, because I'm not sure if it's quite dyslexia, but reading's a little funny for me, so I don't. But when it comes to influencing me, I do have a lot of people. My mom heavily, because she writes too. She's a very heavy influence on my writing. She always encourages me. She's my editor, my editor, and she is a huge influence when it comes to my writing. Um, and then it's when it comes to like inspiring me for also just writing in general besides people, it can just be random things I see just around my daily life. Like for Maniacal, my first book, I got inspired because I saw a TV show that was a slasher show, and I was like, oh, I just want to write a book about that. So I don't really have a specific inspiration besides maybe like my mom or something when it comes to writing.
Okay, well, I want to tell you, your mom is a great inspiration and a role model to have.
Yeah, she is. She's great.
So tell us about the books that you've written, tell listeners what they can expect
Yeah.
when they read them.
Okay, so I currently only have one book out that is Maniacal. Maniacal is like your stereotypical slasher novel. I wrote this as an homage to movies like Scream, which I loved when I was younger. It follows a group of high school seniors who are going to split off for college. So they go to this island in California for a week for summer vacation. And the main character's name is Eric Maddox. He bought this huge house on this island, and that house has a really, really dark past. And as they're on their trip, a bunch of stuff starts to go wrong because there's a serial killer on the island. That's what Maniacal is about. But my other work is very different. So my next published novel, I haven't really talked about this on anything, so this is kind of, I guess, like a reveal or whatever. My next published novel is called The Trees Are Breathing, and it follows two guys. They've been lifelong friends, and they have a show where they explore the wilderness. The main character's name is Adam, and it's his friend Richard, but he's just called Dick the entire novel. And it follows their journey on kind of retiring from their show and the stresses of leaving something that you like behind. But for their series finale, they travel to Siberia, and I can't say much without spoiling. Uh, but it's more of like a psychological thriller. A bunch of stuff goes wrong. If you've seen the movie The Ritual, and if you guys, it's kind of like that with some mythology, but not like action, more like horror-ish.
All right. Well, I know that you don't read much, but you're in the horror genre. So are there any kind of movies that you like to watch or any kind of influences that way?
Yeah. So with when it comes to movies like horror, I the one that, like I said, for influenced me for my book was probably Scream and the TV show called Slasher. Those inspired me to write. And then also what like movies and shows inspired me. Bear Grylls, Man vs. Wild. That's what heavily influenced me to write the next one, because I just loved the adventure aspect of that and just having him with his cameraman, just two friends going out. And I that's why I wrote that, but like with a twist where it's like a horror-ish.
Okay. Well, let's talk about where you see your career, where you see your writing yourself maybe in the next 5 or 10 years.
So I don't know exactly. I hope that writing does go well for me. It's gone pretty well so far, pretty good so far. I've This is my second interview, which I'm very glad to be on here. I did A younger me when I was like 7 would have never expected to have been being interviewed by absolutely anybody for my writing. So this is crazy for me. Um, and then where it's going in the future, I hope it goes good places. I'm getting into some bookstores soon, I believe, and there's a store that wanted to invite me to a book signing soon too. So in the future, I can see it going well, but I don't want to say anything for sure because we never know how things are going to go. But I can only hope that things go well for me in my career.
Absolutely. We'll just keep going and never give up.
Exactly, because like for any aspiring authors, your first book, if you publish your first book, you might get some really harsh criticism, um, because you might have some grammatical errors and you might have spelling errors, but that's totally okay. Your first book is never going to be your best, no matter what. It's a stepping stone for the future. So as long as you publish your first book, and even like I said, even if it's bad, as long as you make your next one better and just fix everything, you're going to do okay. Just as long as you keep on trying and don't give up, you're going to do, I think that people will do well. You just cannot give up and don't listen to what people have to say because it's writing subjective. People don't like your work, they're not going to like it, but then other people are going to love it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Throw out your contact information so people can keep up with your writing and everything that you're going to be up to.
Yeah, so I have social media. My Instagram is Asher Robinson09. So that's ASHERROBINSON09. And then I have a TikTok, which I'm getting some good followers. I think I have 740. Uh, and it's Asher Warren Writes. So ASHERWARRENWRITES. And then I have a website, which is warrencreations.com. So that is WARRENCREATIONS.com. And you can find my writing on all of those.
All right, Asher. Well, close us out with maybe something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or just like any more final thoughts or final comments that you have for the listeners.
I know I've said this a lot with the interview about the don't give up thing, but I cannot emphasize it enough. I know that to get to anybody listening, to everybody listening, I probably sound cliche by saying this, but it's probably the most important piece of advice I can possibly give to anybody writing. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're seven, it doesn't matter if you're 70, it doesn't matter if you're 30. I don't care how old you are. Just listen to this advice. When you write, people are going to judge you. That's inevitable because some people are just not going to like your work. Some people are going to love it. As long as you don't listen to the feedback that's just hate and you keep on going and make your work better and better, you will succeed as an author. So just do not give up. Do not listen to what people have to say. Otherwise, you will fail. So just listen to yourself. Do what you think is best and just keep on pushing forward and you will do well for yourself.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Asher's definitely an inspiration. He's out there doing big things and got big things to come. Please be sure to check out his work. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Any suggestions for guests or topics, cjackson102@cox.net. Please be sure to tell a friend about the show. And just like Asher said, no matter what you're doing, what you're trying to do, what you hope to do, don't ever give up. Asher, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.